Hi there, I'm going to do a little test shoot today. What I have here is a 2x teleconverter. It's a Canon one in this case. And I've been getting questions where people are asking, is it worth using a teleconverter? Well, I'm going to do this little test and we're going to find out. So here I'm using a 70-200 Canon. It's an f.28 lens, so it's a really good quality lens. Now my recommendation is if you do use teleconverters, you really want to use them on good lenses because they do degrade the image quality. And actually that's what we're going to test right now. So now this is a 70-200, but it's actually on a cropped sensor. So this is the Canon 60D. So in this case there's a magnification factor. So the 70-200 becomes a 128-320 lens. So now with the 2x teleconverter, we've actually created a 256-640 lens, which is quite a decent zoom. So we'll take a few test shots and we'll be able to check later to see the quality of those. The other thing I'm going to do too is I'm going to actually take a test shot without the teleconverter, and we'll see that it does make a difference, and we'll compare that to a frame without the teleconverter, and what we'll do is we'll magnify it 2 times in the image software to see if that really does make a difference, if we're actually getting more resolution there, or whether you're better off just sizing up your pictures on the computer. So this will be the test. What we'll do is we'll take a crop in the center that matches the teleconverter shot, and we'll see if that's made a difference. The last little test I'm going to do is we're going to halve the distance to the target. So I've made some markers here, so we're going to halve that distance. And the framing is pretty much what we had with the teleconverter, except now we're closer to the target. Okay, so that'll give us enough images to compare in Photoshop, and we'll see what a difference the teleconverter makes and how much image degradation there is. Okay, back to the lab. Okay, we're here now in Photoshop and we're going to test out the resolution of the 3 images we took. This first image being the one with the teleconverter, and the second image is the without the teleconverter at the same distance, which we're going to zoom in on to see if there's any benefit to having the teleconverter. And then the final shot where we've actually moved half the distance from the target to see if shooting the same target without the teleconverter has a better resolution. So we're going to zoom in on our 3 images. So I'll start off with just zooming in on some of the detail on the sides here, and I'm going to set it to 100% so we can pan around a little bit and see. Okay, so this would probably be a good start, seeing the resolution of this dot in the corner. So I'll jump to the second image and we'll frame that. Now in this case I'm going to set it to actual pixels, but I'm going to take it back to 200, so we seeing an equivalent crop to the other image. So now we have our first image and with the teleconverter, and then without the teleconverter zoomed in, just to have a look. Now looking at this, we are seeing more fine details on the ends of the lines there. I'm getting a little bit of chromatic aberration here, which I could have had set better in the camera raw conversion. And on this one there's less chromatic aberration, which is the color fringing. But here you can see we're definitely getting muddy on the inside here, so we are starting to lose resolution. Now if we compare that to the without the teleconverter and at half the distance, we can see here we're looking at the clearest image. So going from there, teleconverter, to without the teleconverter at the same distance to without the teleconverter at half the distance. Obviously the lens without the teleconverter itself has much better resolution capabilities. So we can also see really on the texture of the paper behind you. So we can see that the paper, the texture's there, but it's a little muddied up, whereas, and when we magnify it just by 2 times without the teleconverter, we don't have that same resolution there in the texture. But the lens without the teleconverter at a closer distance is resolving a lot more detail. So we are noticing image degradation. Now I'm just going to pan down to the bottom corner where there is some text there. And here we go. This will give us a good idea too of the resolving. So now this is with the teleconverter. Now without the teleconverter and just set to the same size image, we're definitely seeing that the teleconverter does help. The letters are definitely clearer here, more resolution. You can really tell with the C in copyright. The C here is distinct. It's a little fuzzy on the whole, so we are getting a little bit of softness on the edge here because this is near the edge of the frame. But if we take off the teleconverter and just magnify the image, we're not resolving as much. We see the C in copyright here has got quite muddy, and we're not really resolving the C inside the circle. So overall the text not quite as readable. And finally, having no teleconverter closer, then obviously it's the most sharp image, and there we can see the text is a lot sharper. So yes, we are getting image degradation. You can see between this image a little bit of softness, and you notice it's dropping in contrast a little. Much clearer with the lens closer without the teleconverter. The C is a lot clearer here, the text a bit more contrast, easy to read, and the texture of the paper really showing up. So yes, the teleconverter does help if you can't get closer, but if you can get closer, then you're better off moving in on your subject, because without the teleconverter is a lot better. So overall, a great test. Thank you for listening. This is Ken from Digital Photo Central.